of the Blackwood evidence. The brass pokers split Marcus's skull first. Then came the photograph. Elena stood in the kitchen doorway, covered in her brother's blood, holding evidence of a life so carefully buried that 12 years of payments wouldn't exhume it. The folder crinkled in her white-knuckled fist. Behind her, Vince was already climbing through the broken window. 13 hours earlier. The silver sedan died on the gravel drive, with a sound like a sigh. Elena's hands remained locked on the steering wheel, her nails bitten to the quick, white-knuckle tension running from her wrists up through her shoulders. The engine clicked and cooled. A key tag swung from the ignition, Blackwood Estate, Master, catching the overcast light. She didn't get out immediately. The house loomed above her like something that had forgotten how to die. Blackwood Victorian, all black peaked gables and crumbling stone gargoyles. The sky was the color of old pewter. A crow called from somewhere in the dead oaks that flanked the driveway, a sound that made her breath catch. The front door opened. Marcus stood silhouetted against the dim interior, his Rolex gleaming even in the poor light. He wore a smirk like cologne, something expensive and inappropriate. 3 days since the funeral. 3 days since they'd lowered their father into ground that wouldn't hold anything anymore. Elena stepped out. Her boots crunched on gray gravel. She pulled her black wool coat tight. "Late as usual, Elle," Marcus called down. "Father would have hated your lack of punctuality." She didn't answer, just brushed past him into the hallway where the air smelled of lemon wax and decay. The grandfather clock was silent. It had always been loud, of authoritative ticking that had marked her entire childhood. Now it stood mute. One more dead thing in a house full of them. She saw the bills of sale immediately, scattered on a mahogany side table like someone had forgotten to hide them. Several of them. And the walls, where the paintings had been, there were only pale rectangles and nail holes. The Rembrandts were gone. "You're selling them already?" Elena's voice came out sharp, accusatory. "The funeral was 3 days ago." Marcus moved fast. His hand closed around her elbow, too firm, fingers pressing into the soft inside of her arm. He was close enough that she could smell bourbon and peppermint cigarettes. His pupils were dilated, a vein pulsing at his temple like something separate from him, something alive and angry on its own. "I'm the executor. I do what's necessary to save this dump. Don't test me." She yanked her arm away. His grip broke with an unexpected ease, as if he'd been more interested in making a point than actually holding her. She retreated toward the kitchen, her heart hammering against her ribs in a way that made breathing difficult. Through the doorway, she saw Aunt Martha. The old woman stood at the stove, stirring a pot of soup with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The wooden spoon scraped the bottom with a sound like something brittle breaking. A heavy knock on the front door. Not a knock, a pounding. Elena turned back into the hallway. She saw Marcus stiffen. The color drained from his face in a way that was almost theatrical, except there was nothing performative about the fear in his eyes. The door opened. A man in a leather jacket stepped through without waiting for an invitation. He had the kind of face that looked better with damage on it. A scar ran through his left eyebrow like a signature. His boots left wet prints on the floor. "Where is he?" The man's voice came from somewhere low and gray inside his chest. "Marcus owes me for the last shipment." Marcus rushed into the hall. He put his hands on the man's shoulders, a gesture meant to look collegial, intimate. But when he tried to push him back toward the porch, the man didn't move. He was like stone, like pushing against a wall and expecting the wall to have the courtesy to shift. "Not here, Vince," Marcus said, and his voice had gone thin and stretched. My family is here. Vince's fist came up and across in a movement that looked casual until it connected with Marcus's jaw. The sound was a sickening crack. Bone on fist, the particular wet horror of a punch that lands perfectly. Marcus's head snapped back. Blood sprayed across the white wallpaper in a pattern that looked almost beautiful for the half-second before Elena understood what it was. Her brother crumpled against a side table. A crystal vase shattered. It sounded like something breaking inside her chest. Elena grabbed the brass fire poker from the stand. She swung it without thinking, without calculating trajectory or force. The poker whistled through the air and missed Vince's head by inches. It hit the door frame with a sound like a bell. Wood splinters flew. The frame was gouged, a raw wound of exposed timber. "Get out!" Elena was screaming now, the voice barely recognizable as her own. "I'm calling the police." Vince looked at her for the first time. He wiped a drop of blood from his lip. He pointed one thick finger at Marcus, who was groaning on the floor, his hand pressed to his jaw. "Tomorrow, Marcus," Vince said. His voice was calm. This was what made it terrifying, the absolute flatness of it, the promise delivered in the same tone someone might use to order coffee. "Or the house isn't the only thing you'll lose." Then he was gone, back into the rainy night. His footsteps on gravel faded. The rain swallowed the sound. Martha appeared in the doorway, her soup stirring interrupted. She looked at the blood on the wallpaper, at Marcus on the floor, at Elena holding the poker like she was made of it. "I'll get the first aid kit," Martha said quietly. The basement stairs were rickety. They had always been rickety. Elena descended them now with a flickering flashlight in her free hand, the other holding a roll of paper towels and a basin of water. The beam cut through cobwebs and darkness. Her breath came in small, careful portions. The basement smelled like old wine and the particular scent of money that had been hidden too long, a smell like dust and metal and secrets. She was looking for cleaning supplies. That's what she told herself. Hydrogen peroxide and gauze. Things to stop the bleeding. Things to clean away the evidence of what had happened in the hallway upstairs. Her foot caught on a loose floorboard near the wine rack. She stumbled. The board came up an inch, nails screeching against wood underneath. A glint of metal caught her flashlight beam. She knelt. Her fingers pried the oak plank upward. It came away with a sound like something sighing. Beneath it was a small, black, fireproof safe. The digital keypad reflected her light back at her, a tiny screen waiting for input. There was a sticky note attached to the side. The handwriting was Marcus's. She recognized it from countless notes left on the refrigerator, casual and arrogant. M. Birthday. Below the notation, 04-12-82. Her finger trembled as she punched in the code. 041282. The safe emitted a sharp electronic beep that sounded impossibly loud in the basement silence. The handle turned. She pulled it open. Inside was organized chaos. Folders stacked neatly. Bank statements. A blue manila folder with St. Clair account written on the front in Marcus's handwriting. Below that, a photograph. Elena pulled it out. The photo was glossy, professional quality. Marcus in it, younger, maybe 12 years ago, with his arm around a blonde woman. The woman was holding a toddler. They were in a sunny park. The woman was laughing. It was not Sarah. It was not Marcus's wife. Who the hell are they? Elena whispered to the darkness. Elena spread the papers across the damp concrete floor. The flashlight sat propped against a crate, angling light at the documents. Bank statements from Island National. They went back to 2012. 12 years of transfers. Every month like clockwork, $5,000. Directed to Julianne St. Clair, for 12 years, 120 months, $600,000. She found the mortgage deed next, a townhouse in Savannah. The co-signers were Marcus Blackwood and Julianne St. Clair. The deed was dated 3 months after Marcus's wedding to Sarah. The notary stamp was official. Everything was legal. Everything was a lie wrapped in legal documentation. The address was 422 Oglethorpe Way. There were letters. She found them tied with a red silk ribbon. She snapped the ribbon and opened one at random. The handwriting was feminine, careful. "The boy looks just like you, Marcus. He asks when his father is coming home from his business trip again. He doesn't understand that you only visit when it rains. When it rains." Elena heard something from upstairs. A heavy thud. A door slamming. Her hands went numb. She stuffed the papers back into the folder with frantic, clumsy movements. The safe stood open, the floorboard askew. She didn't have time to close it. She couldn't risk the sound. She pressed herself against the cold basement wall, the blue folder clutched to her chest. Her heart was doing something dangerous in her ribcage. The footsteps were above her now, slow and rhythmic, back and forth, back and forth. "Elle?" Marcus's voice traveled down through the floorboards, thin and cold. "You down there, I need that ice pack." She didn't answer. She waited until the footsteps moved away, until there was only the sound of rain against the basement window and the thunder of her own pulse. The kitchen was fluorescent white and brutal in its light. Marcus leaned against the counter with a bag of frozen peas pressed to his swollen jaw. The bandage Elena had applied was already starting to separate at the edges, and his shirt was stained with blood that had dried to a dark rust color. He stared at her coat. "What's in the coat, Elle?" His voice came out distorted, shaped by pain and swelling. "You're walking like you've got a secret." Elena tried to move past him. Just past him, toward the kitchen table, toward the door that led to the hallway. Just a few steps. She almost made it. Marcus lunged. His hands closed around her shoulders, and he drove her backward, her spine hitting the pantry door with a sound like thunder. The folder slipped out from under her coat and hit the tile floor with a sharp slap. Papers scattered. The photograph of the child lay face up on the white tile. Marcus looked down. His face went through a transformation. Anger bleeding into recognition, recognition bleeding into the ghostly white of someone watching their entire, constructed life collapse. He released her and scrambled for the papers. She kicked them away, her boots sliding them across the wet floor like she was playing hockey with the architecture of her brother's secret life. "Savannah, Marcus?" Her voice was venomous. "Julianne." "How long?" He tackled her. It was pure animal impulse. No thought behind it. Just desperation and fear channeled into kinetic force. She hit the floor hard. Her head nearly connected with the edge of the kitchen table. But she twisted at the last moment and the corner missed her by an inch. They grappled on the floor. He was heavier, much stronger. But she was more desperate. And desperation is its own kind of strength. His hands closed around her wrists, trying to pin them. His face was inches from hers, and he was crying. Actually crying, tears mixing with blood and sweat. "Give it to me," he gasped. "You have no idea what you're doing." Elena bit down on his hand. She bit hard until she tasted blood. Marcus screamed, an animal sound that echoed through the kitchen, and pulled his hand away. She grabbed a heavy ceramic teapot from the counter and swung it. It connected with his collarbone and shattered, sending fragments of porcelain across the floor like shrapnel. Cold tea soaked into his shirt. They stood frozen in that moment, both breathing hard, both realizing that everything had changed, that the house had heard the truth now, that there was no going back. Aunt Martha appeared in the doorway first, then David, Elena's cousin. They were both in night clothes, their faces pale with shock. Martha's hand went to her mouth. David's eyes moved from Marcus to Elena to the scattered papers. What the hell is going on? David moved into the kitchen, his voice tight with protective anger. Did he hit you, Elena? Marcus got to his feet slowly. He was bleeding from multiple places now, his jaw, his hand, his neck where the teapot had caught him. He didn't look at the folder. He refused to look at it. Instead, he pointed at Elena and then at the floor. She's lost it. His voice was getting louder now, more desperate. She's attacking me because I'm liquidating the estate. This is what happens when you give responsibility to someone who can't handle it. She's having a breakdown. Elena held up the folder. She pulled out the photograph of the toddler, the one with the distinctive white lock of hair on his forehead, the mark that appeared in every Blackwood male for 6 generations. She handed the photo toward David. His hand reached out. His fingers hesitated before touching the glossy paper. But when he saw the white lock of hair, he understood. Elena saw the moment of comprehension wash over him, the realization that Marcus had fathered a child with another woman, that their uncle had built a second life, hidden it, funded it with money that should have gone to their father's hospice care. David dropped the photograph as if it burned him. Marcus. His voice was strained, careful. Whose kid is this? Why does he have the mark? Marcus lunged for the photo on the floor. Elena blocked him with her body, pushing David aside. The family formed a circle around the evidence. Scattered papers, bank statements, the carefully documented proof of infidelity and fraud. It's not what it looks like. Marcus was nearly shrieking now. I can explain everything. Just give me the folder. That's when the front door opened. Sarah came in like a force of nature. She was soaked from the rain, but somehow still impeccable. Her designer trench coat beige and perfect, her makeup intact despite the storm. She didn't look at Marcus. She looked straight at the folder in Elena's hands. Give me the folder, Elena, Sarah said. Now. Elena backpedaled. Her chest went tight. This wasn't rescue. She was watching Sarah's face, and there was nothing in it. No shock, no betrayal, no anger. Just a cold, clinical assessment of the situation. You knew, Elena whispered. You knew about the money in Savannah? Sarah took a step closer. She reached into her bag and pulled out a legal document, pages bound with a brass clip. She tossed it onto the coffee table in the living room. The document slid across the glass with a soft whisper. I knew about the money. I didn't care as long as our lifestyle was protected. Sign it and you get 10%, Sarah said, matter of fact. The NDA is standard. We're a family. Family keeps family secrets. Elena laughed. It came out jagged and desperate, something broken at the edges. She found a bank statement on the floor and tore it in half. White paper fluttered through the air like snow. The numbers on the torn page read, 510,000 rand. You're just as sick as he is, Elena said. Sarah's face remained unmoved. She pulled out her phone and began dialing. She maintained eye contact the entire time. This was deliberate, calculated. She was making a point. Vince is still outside, Sarah said, her voice absolutely flat, absolutely merciless. He wasn't working for a business associate, Elena. He works for me. Give me the folder or he comes back in. The front window exploded. The glass didn't shatter. It exploded, bursting inward in a cascade of razor-sharp fragments that scattered across the Persian rug. Vince's leather boot followed the destruction, kicking through the remaining pain. He was already climbing through before Elena could move. She bolted for the stairs. She made it to the third step before Vince caught her ankle. His grip was steel in pain. She fell hard, her chin hitting the runner. The impact sent stars through her vision, her mouth filled with the taste of copper. The folder skidded further up the stairs, out of reach. Vince pulled. He was dragging her backward now, his bulk settling against her legs. Elena kicked backward with her free leg, putting everything she had into it. Her heel connected with his throat. He gagged, a wet, desperate sound, and his grip loosened for just a moment. Just long enough. She scrambled upward on hands and knees, her palms leaving blood on the worn carpet, her fingers clawing at wood. Behind her, Vince was recovering, pulling himself upward, one massive hand reaching for her ankle again. She made it to the landing. Marcus was standing at the top of the stairs. He was holding something heavy, a brass trophy. Best Poker Player, Blackwood Family Invitational, 1998. His face was a mixture of emotions that didn't reconcile with each other. Pity and murder and desperation all at once. "Why couldn't you just let it be, El?" His voice broke on the words. "Why couldn't you just leave it alone?" He raised the trophy. David hit him from the side. A shoulder tackle that sent both men tumbling into the hallway with a sound like a car crash. The trophy clanged down the stairs, each step ringing with the impact, narrowly missing Elena's head. "Run, Elena!" David was screaming. "Get out! Run!" The attic was small, dusty, filled with trunks and the accumulated weight of family history nobody wanted. Elena slammed the door and slid a heavy iron bolt through the lock. She was shaking now, her entire body vibrating with adrenaline. One small window looked out across 3 stories to the rain-slicked driveway below. Sarah's voice came through the door, calm and terrifying. "You can't stay there forever, Elena. The town knows you as the unstable sister. No one will believe you. Burn the folder. I'll make sure David keeps his mouth shut. We're family." Elena looked at the folder. The blue paper was crumpled now, the corners bent. She could feel the weight of it in her hands. 12 years of documented fraud, of betrayal, of money funneled to a woman and a child that Marcus had hidden from everyone. She looked at a photograph. There was a small silver frame on a nearby trunk. Her father. His face was stern but kind, the way she remembered it. She thought about the hospice bills, the medical debt, the way Marcus had said the estate was worthless and needed to be liquidated. A heavy hammer blow struck the door. The wood splintered. A claw hammer head poked through the oak. Vince was coming through. He wasn't subtle about it. He just swung again and again, each blow destroying more of the door. Elena's fingers fumbled against the frame of the window. She tried to open it. It was painted shut. She looked around frantically. A wooden trunk, a frame, anything heavy. The door latch buckled. She was trapped. No cell service, no way down, no allies. Just a folder and a window and the sound of a hammer destroying the only barrier between her and the people who wanted her dead. The door was almost through. Then Elena remembered. The flue access for the master chimney. A maintenance shaft. Something she'd learned about in her childhood when she was playing hideaway in the attic with her cousins. A way out if you knew where to look. She lunged for the heavy oak wardrobe and shoved it with every bit of strength she had. It scraped across the floor. Behind it, a small, rusted metal door. She ripped it open with fingers that were stronger than she knew they could be. The shaft was dark and soot-filled. She stuffed the blue folder into the waistband of her pants and crawled into the darkness. Behind her, the attic door crashed inward with a final, violent sound. She could hear Vince entering, could hear his flashlight sweeping, could hear his breathing as he looked for her in the darkness. Elena slid down the maintenance ladder inside the chimney stack. Her hands were black with soot. Each rung was greasy and cold. She reached the second-floor service hatch and kicked it open, tumbling into the guest room where someone had left a lamp on. She ran to the balcony. Below, she could see Marcus and Sarah in the hallway, their heads tilted upward, looking toward the attic. She climbed over the stone railing and dropped onto the roof of the wraparound porch. The tiles were wet and slippery. She moved by instinct alone. She slid down a thick oak branch that overspread the porch. Her coat caught on a snag of bark. She ripped herself free, tearing the fabric away. Her feet hit the gravel driveway hard enough to send pain up through her legs. She ran toward the main gate. She didn't look back. The house was silent the next morning. That was the first thing Elena noticed when she came back. She'd gone to the police station, to the sheriff's office, spread the papers across the desk of a man named Wallace, whose expression had moved from skeptical to grim as he read through the documentation. Now she walked into the dining room with Sheriff Wallace behind her. The family was gathered there, as if for breakfast, as if nothing had happened, as if the night had been a bad dream they all agreed to forget. She placed the folder on the center of the long dining table. The blue paper looked obscene against the white tablecloth. "Breakfast is served," Elena said. "Every bank transfer, every photo, every lie." Marcus looked at the sheriff, then at the folder. His hand reached out, trembling. He tried to grab it, but Wallace put a hand on his shoulder. Marcus deflated. He looked 10 years older than he had yesterday. His Rolex caught the light, expensive, precious, meaningless now. "Sit down, Marcus," Wallace said. His voice was official, stern, and absolutely final. "We have much to discuss regarding the Savannah holdings." Sarah stood to leave. Wallace blocked her with his body. He pulled out photographs. Elena had found more after returning this morning. Documents with Sarah's signature, fraudulent checks, amounts $12,000 for home renovations, Savannah. "Accomplice is the word, right, Sheriff?" Elena said. Sarah's face shifted. For the first time, something real moved across it. Fear. Aunt Martha picked up the photograph of the toddler. She touched the white lock of hair with her trembling fingers. She looked at Marcus, then at Elena, then back at the child's face. "He looks exactly like your father, Marcus," Martha said quietly, her voice devastated. "Shame on you." Elena turned her back on them. She walked to the window. The morning was clear after the rain. The air seemed thinner, clearer, easier to breathe. She felt something lifting from her shoulders. Not peace, nothing so simple as that. Just the absence of a specific weight. Behind her, she could hear Wallace reading Marcus his rights. 1 week later, Elena sat in a rocking chair on the porch. A white ceramic mug was warm in her hands. Coffee, black, no sugar. The moving trucks were parked in the driveway, but they weren't here to remove things. They were here to deliver. The sold sign had been taken down. In its place, a new sign was being installed. Heritage Trust, restoration in progress. Elena watched the workers install it. The Blackwood estate was in transition. The criminal investigation was ongoing. There would be trials. There would be more revelations. But for now, this morning, there was just the sound of birds and the hum of professional activity and the creak of the rocking chair. A woman walked up the driveway. She was young, maybe 30, tired in the way that comes from years of managing things alone. She was holding a toddler's hand. The boy was small, maybe 4 years old. with dark hair and striking eyes. He was carrying a toy car in his free hand. Elena recognized the woman from the photographs. "Julianne St. Clair. Are you Elena?" the woman asked. Her voice was soft, uncertain. "Marcus told me. He said if anything happened to him, I should come here. He left instructions. He left money. For the boy." Elena stood. She looked at the child. He had Marcus's eyes, but there was something else in his face, too. Something that belonged to her father. A look she recognized from old photographs. A Blackwood trait written in genetics and time. The boy looked at her back. He didn't smile, but he didn't seem afraid. Elena reached into her pocket. She pulled out the key with the brass tag. "Blackwood Estate, Master." She handed it to the boy. His small fingers closed around it. The key was much bigger than his palm. "Welcome home, little one," Elena said. They walked together, Julianne, the boy, and Elena, down the porch steps. The sun was high and bright. The garden was visible ahead, the roses just beginning to bloom. The family was broken, fractured in ways that might never fully heal. But it was honest now. The lies were gone. The house stood behind them, waiting for whatever came next. A structure of stone and history and secrets finally exposed to light. They walked toward the garden. The rocking chair creaked softly, abandoned but not forgotten. The white mug left on the arm, still warm with coffee. The wind moved through the trees. A white rose bloomed in the foreground. The toy car dangled from the boy's small fist as they walked across the grass into the morning light.